sending out a follow-out email just for everyone to kind of watch the recording in their own time. But I can see a whole bunch of people joining us already. So welcome. Thank you so much for supporting us in support of International Women's Week, where we're doing a whole week of empowering female events. So we do have a couple more taking place today. So do head over to our website and check it all out there. But I would love to kind of see where everyone's tuning in from. So do jump in that chat, introduce yourself. It's so lovely to kind of hear, obviously, your name, give us a good morning or wherever you are in the world, your location while we're doing these events online. It's just, yeah, so lovely to just kind of connect as well. So do drop in if it's like your LinkedIn's or social media handles, so we can connect on this event and then definitely off as well. So jump in on the chat with your name, location, and then if it's social media handles or LinkedIn's would be great. And just to kind of point out in the chat, you've got 2 panelists, and then you can drop that down to panelists and attendees. So everyone in the chat will be able to kind of see what you're popping in there as well. So make sure to do that. And while we give it a few more seconds for more people to join, let me introduce myself. So I'm John, and I'm the partnerships lead at General Assembly, which means I just reach out to incredible brands and speakers to help me deliver these community events. So we're joined by Hewan, who's going to be our moderator for this session, Paula, Ro, Zara, and then Yolanda as well. And then a huge thank you to our partners for this session, which is YWCA Australia and then the Dream Collective as well. But if you're new and joining us for the first time and don't know much about General Assembly and who we are and what we do, we are a tech education company offering high demand skills in tech. And this is through our full-time and part-time courses, classes and workshops, and in these free events as well, where our mission is to empower those to pursue a career they love and help them with their career transitions into skills such as UX design, data science, and software engineering. So if you do have any more questions, maybe regarding General Assembly, feel free to reach out to our incredible frontline team, and that's at oznz@ga.co. Feel free to shoot them any questions and they'll get to them there. But if you do have any questions during this session, please do direct them to that Q&A box down the bottom, and we'll be sure to kind of touch upon them if it's towards the end or kind of during the session as well. So just kind of pop them in there. We are, like I mentioned, also recording this event. And lastly, before we get started, General Assembly would like to acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first Australians and traditional custodians of the land where we live, learn, and work, paying our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop talking and pass it straight over to Hewan to kick things off. So take it away.
Thanks, John, and hello, everyone. It's really cool to see people coming in from the US, from New Zealand, and from hotel quarantine in Sydney. You poor thing, Harmony. We're all, hoping that you had a really good time this morning and get some useful tips and tricks. If people could also use the chat to tell us, the panelists, what kind of industry you're in. So are you in tech? Are you in engineering? Are you in hospitality? What do you do with your life? And we'll make sure we can steer the conversation in that direction as well, because we want you to get from this panel what you came here for. So as John said, my name is Hewan. I'm a career coach here at General Assembly, and I'm very lucky to support our students studying tech immersives to help them land their first job in a new industry and help them understand what that industry looks like. And so I couldn't be more excited to be here today speaking to our amazing panelists about their experiences in their industries and their experiences as female identifying people in industries that maybe aren't dominated by, female identifying people. So I'll pass the microphone over to you, Paula. If you could introduce yourself, let us know who you are while you're here, and then feel free to pass that mic along to the next panelist. Let's get to know each other.
Oh, thank you. Welcome, everybody, to this lovely morning webinar. I am speaking from Wokingham, England, so it is actually, we're in the past at the moment. It is in the evening here, so it's quite cool for us. I lead a business development organization within Dell. We are a startup. We are about a year old now, just a year old. And my role within Dell Technologies is to drive transformation and innovation, how we engage with our customers. So creating new ways, new alternatives, routes to market, for end consumers and for small businesses. I manage a team of about 30 people. We are spread around 7 countries, and we are a very diverse 50-50 male-female organization, to which I am very proud of. So yes, and I have an equal balance between women and male leaders, which is very good. So very exciting, and very, very happy to be here with you, and I hope to contribute a lot this evening. I'd like to pass over to Yolanda, introduce herself.
Thanks, Paula. Hi, everyone. I think good morning, good evening, and good afternoon for some people. We've got so many time zones here. I just want to thank General Assembly for giving me this opportunity. Same as Paula, I'm so excited for the discussion today and even learning from some of the audience too. But my name's Yolanda. I am the Senior Client Lead here at the Dream Collective. Don't let the accent fool you. I'm actually based in Sydney, Australia. But essentially what my role is here is I work closely with heads of HRs, CEOs of mainly technology organizations who are really trying to attract more women into their organization, retain them or advance them. And I think what's so exciting for me being on this panel is that the audience here, I suppose, tends to be women who will be going through General Assembly. It's that we are really working tirelessly in the background here, creating these environments for you to really thrive at these organizations. And I can't tell you how much they really want you, and that they're trying to create these inclusive environments. They're trying to find you, and then we're partnering with them to make sure that they do. So whatever your career looks like, whatever success looks like for you, they're ready and we're helping them. So thanks so much. I'll pass over to Ro.
Hi. So I also would like to say hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am here in Cologne, Germany at the moment, and I'm also very grateful for the opportunity to share my thoughts and also to receive from everybody out there about this really important topic. I am a trained behavioral, computational, clinical neuroscientist. My work has spanned from understanding how neural networks work to produce vision, all the way to neuropathological disorders like epilepsy, Tourette syndrome, and various other neurological and mental health disorders. And I have recently switched over to found a startup called Access to the Path. And what I do with Access to the Path is use all the training that I've gotten in understanding the biological basis of behavior and also in statistical physics and so on, and apply all of that, because I'm a serious geek and I love it. and I apply all that to helping people understand better the world in which they live in and the world which lives within them. Because when we understand ourselves better and we understand our environment better, then first of all, that stabilizes us. And in stabilizing us, it empowers us. And this becomes incredibly important because a lot of the problems that we have come from misunderstanding and fear. And when we are in our strength and our power, then we can relate to ourselves and each other much better. So this is my contribution to improving the world by helping one person at a time to feel more purposeful, more effective, happier, and more aligned with their authentic selves. And hopefully that will also contribute in this way to not only specifically empowering women because of the challenges that we're facing, which is why we're all here to discuss that, but also improve the understanding between men and women. And when we all stabilize, then that should help to reduce a lot of the strain between us. So, Zara?
Amazing.
Thank you so much. Before I begin, I also just want to pay my respects to the Indigenous people of Australia. I'm joining in today from Wajak Noongar Boodja, otherwise known as Perth, Western Australia. So just on the opposite end of Sydney or Melbourne, as most foreigners would know as the main part of Australia. But I guess for myself, I am a current law student, but I rather pride myself off a lot of my advocacy work. I don't necessarily view myself as an activist. I'm also view myself as a vocalist for change who is doing my part in this world to create equitable reform for underrepresented minorities. As a first generation Australian from a migrant and refugee background, it is obviously my biggest obligation to ensure that the future generation who follow after me are equitably represented across all levels of decision making. And unfortunately, we still have a long way to go in ensuring that intersectional voices are actually represented. I am here representing YWCA Australia as a part of the Young Women's Council, and I am so excited to be here. So back to you.
Amazing. What an amazing panel of awesome people with excellent experiences. So for those of you joining us in the audience, please feel free to jump into that Q&A and let us know what's top of mind for you. I can see some really exciting journeys in the chat. Pilots becoming something in tech, maybe a software engineer. So many cool things. I think I'd like to pass the first question across to Yolanda, because this is really the Dream Collective's natural space. So can you explain to us, I'm sure we all have a kind of generalized understanding, but why is diversity in inclusion important in all industries?
Yes, a great question. And there's just so many answers to it. I think the first one that kind of comes to my mind is that when I look at the world, we're really a global community, first of all. But the second thing is that it's one, the right thing to do, but two, it actually helps our economy. It helps with innovation. It helps with risk. It helps with profitability. There's just so many things actually. So it's really diversity of thought and growing together. There's so many ideas that are still to be found because some people haven't got a voice at the table yet. And I think that's what really excites me. So it's the right thing to do, and that it's good for the economy, businesses, and for everyone involved, I would probably say.
It's just a win-win, right? Sounds pretty
definitely.
So we do want to keep today's panel positive and talk about ways in which you can actively diversify a man's world, and to Rose's point, be who you want to be, where you want to be, and not let other people's thoughts and feelings hold you back from doing that. But it's not all sunshine and roses. Paula, we've met before. You have a really excellent story that just summarizes a lot of the things that we sometimes worry might happen in tech. So would you like to share that story with us all today? Tell us that yellow dress story.
Sure. It's a funny one. So a lot of people think that, I think stigma, right? That you think women who are highly intelligent and who are in STEM especially, because it's a man's world, are either, sort of blonde, they don't have the like for fashion, and not your stereotypical girl, don't dress up, don't wear makeup, don't do this or the other. And I transitioned from a very marketing driven role into a very technical job. So a product role, very, very technical, working with IT managers, having to know the details of systems management, really, really having to spend a lot of time in the IT department. So I went to one of my very first client meetings, and this is a whole male-dominated table, and we're there to present, to have a presentation, to demonstrate the product, and I have the engineers with me and everything, and we're all set up. So that client comes in, greets everybody, goes to my engineer and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you brought your wife to the meeting." So I was like, okay, oh my God, what is this? But you have to, you're in a professional environment, you have to. And I said, "I'm so sorry to disappoint you." And I'm sure he would like that I would be his wife, but I'm actually a product specialist, and I am here to do the demonstration for you today.
Excellent.
So it was hilarious because nobody knew. One, nobody expected that he would say that. Two, nobody expected that I would react that way, because it was like, and then I said, "Can we actually get on with the demonstration, because we only have an hour and we have to go to another customer?" And I left that meeting, and my colleagues, my male colleagues, so the account executive was male, the systems engineer was male, and the account manager was male. And, you know, I was actually the first female to ever have that job, which was highly technical. And I left that job, and they all said to me, oh my God, if that happened to us and we were in a women environment, and they would have said, Paula, oh, we didn't know you brought your husband to the meeting, we would have died. We would have felt terrible. And I said, that's exactly how it feels. But, you know, we can never let other people tell you how to be, how to dress, how to behave. You've got to be yourself all the time. And not because I wear a yellow dress and I was on a yellow dress, you know, full makeup, everything, just stereotypical. So be who you are, never be afraid of it, because you're entitled to it.
Yes. So it sounds like within that team, you had some really great colleagues who totally respected you and, you know, were mortified that this had happened to you, and could totally empathize that they would be mortified if the shoe was on the other foot. I guess I'm going to pass the next question to Ro. How do we meaningfully engage men in the conversations in the workplace so they can advocate for diversity of all kinds when the room lacks diversity?
That's a great question, actually. And the thing is that I have a very male dominant energy. And when I first started out, you know, in computational neuroscience back in the day, there were almost no women. And it would often be people saying to me, do you realize you're the only girl in the room? And I'm like, what? But I come from 3 generations of the only daughter. So I've been surrounded by men, so I never noticed. And that gives me the advantage of having conversations with men, because I've always grown up a tomboy and with guys and all that stuff, where I hear the truth. Because one of the dangers of really, you know, this is a really important conversation to have. And I'm so glad you asked this question, because a lot of women think we just have to bring up the numbers. You know, we have what's called manels, you know, all the men on a panel, they're all men. So now we're insisting that women have to be on panels. You know, the speakers are men, so we have to insist that. But what happens is, and I'll give you a personal story. I was running together with my, the chief of the department. I was in the department of stereotactic and functional neurosurgery. And my chief neurosurgeon was also a woman. So the two of us ran this conference, and I called all the, it turned out to this big, amazing conference, 3 days with, you know, I flew people in from all the experts from all over the world that were in neurosurgery, neurology, neuroscience, people from industry, so on and so forth. I really very carefully curated the whole thing. And I ended up, as it turns out, with my speakers being all men. Now, neurosurgery is an extremely male-dominated field, and functional neurosurgery, the kind of thing that I was doing, which is deep brain stimulation surgery, that's a really specialized niche, and there are very few women, especially a few years ago, in that area. Now, there's a woman that I won't name who, you know, tries to really advocate to bring women into the picture, you know, and change the conversation. And she doesn't engage in a good conversation with men, which actually works against us women. Why do I say that? It turns out, and it's funny because one of the guys said to me, you know, you have to be careful. He was really scared. One of my colleagues said to me, you have to make sure you have enough women. And I was like, what are you even talking about? Because I was, you know, oblivious to all this stuff, right? Because I literally don't see gender or race, or I just don't see it. I see who you are and what we're doing. Now, I appreciate that things are brought to my attention because, you know, with awareness comes improvement, right? So I actually reached out to 2 women. One of them, I was like stalking her to get her to come and give a talk because she was perfect, but she was overbooked. I mean, there were so many things that I did to try to get her to come on, but she obviously could not. And there was another one. And as it turns out, I also asked I mean, I feel so stupid to say this, a Black man who I never saw that way, just as I didn't see the women that way, to come and speak, because these were the appropriate speakers for what we were doing. But I never saw them as male or female or Black or white. I saw them for what they were doing for their work, which is what we want as women. We want to be valued for what we bring to the table, right? That's what we want, not equality, right? We want equity, we want fairness. So I was actually being very fair. Well, this other woman who's advocating for women, turns out, called up some of my speakers, emailed them, and started bullying them, telling them to pull out. Now, we're talking about bringing women to be invited to speak. These are two women who are running the show, and you're trying to tank it. So this is how women work against women. And now, to answer a question about the male conversation, why did I know about this? This woman never reached out to me. She never spoke to me. And she still now goes around talking to people. We had the New York Times call me. I mean, actually, I was in the US at the time. So they emailed my boss. And, you know, this turned into like a huge thing. It never ended up coming to light. But we were both stunned, because to her credit, also my boss, she also wasn't seeing any of this, right? We didn't see it in those terms, but the guys, they contacted me and said, do you know what this woman is doing? And that's how I found out about it. And then they were told, and one of them is the child of Holocaust survivors. And he said to me, I will never undergo bullying. He offered generously to bow out so that I could bring in a woman, but everything was perfect the way it was. And I appreciate it, but he said, I will come because I don't want to be bullied. Here's a woman bullying a man. How is that going to reflect to women? Now, the reason these men could have an honest conversation with me is because I was open. And then a lot of the other guys came up to me and said, oh, it's so great that it's you, because if it was one of us, if it had been one of us doing this, we'd have been skewered. So how do we talk to men? Honestly, that's how. Be fair, be honest. The way we talk to each other, right? You know, you confide and you say, we are human beings first, and we all have the same fears and insecurities, all of us. Doesn't matter where you come from, privilege, not privilege, whatever race, gender, or orientation you have. And when we make a human to human connection, ooh, that's where the magic happens. So just talk to someone instead of getting defensive, instead of attacking. Do you know what I mean? And when you do that, because I know a lot of guys who are now very confused, what can I say to a woman? How do I not offend her? What am I supposed to do? They're confused. And you know what? Confusion's never good for progress, for understanding, for kindness, for empowerment. So having a really fair, honest conversation. If you feel offended, explain why. Bring them on board, make them part of the conversation. They will then be your advocate when you need it. That's where the real strength comes in. And that's why I told you this long story. It's behind the curtain that all the real stuff happens. You know, the women that get invited and then get marginalized and mocked, and you know, all the guys are doing whatever, they showed up, the numbers are there, but the impact hasn't changed. You want to change things fundamentally, so be human about it.
I love this advice. I think something that I'm always saying to my people changing into tech, and this goes for men and women when they think, oh, this is hard, this is different, this is outside my comfort zone. Humans crave clarity and they crave connection. Make it clear and connect on a human level. And then when you're not in the room, the conversations being held are also on a human level. And those people, whether they are women or men or, you know, anything, they are going to be having meaningful, impactful conversations because they start to care when you've connected. I love that advice.
And you made a very good point. And the thing is that the more you come up and say, I'm a woman, I'm a woman, I'm a woman, the more you are creating that separation, right?
I don't know that I know any women who run around saying we are women, but you're quite right. We don't need to point out the obvious. Let's just have meaningful conversations.
Right.
great advice. So there's a really interesting question in the Q&A from Donna speaking about ageism in tech. And I definitely want to get to this question, but we had a pre-prepared question and I would love to speak to you about this, Sarah. As a younger woman, have you felt that your age has ever been a barrier, you know, in collaboration with your gender, or are those barriers easy for you to break down? And if they are, please tell us your tricks, your tips. How do we break down those barriers?
Thank you for the question. I think that I first of all should preface by saying that my entire identity as a woman of color, as a woman of faith, as a younger woman is so controversial to the eyes of the public. And sometimes I have experienced those days where I'm not viewed as a woman or a human, rather I'm viewed as some external species that isn't even worth being acknowledged as a human being. And the truth is that it does get super tiring, and it does get constantly, like, it's very disappointing to constantly have to prove your existence. And whilst I acknowledge that I do have privilege as a lighter skinned human being, I recognize that, for example, Indigenous women or Black women face these disproportionate inequalities a lot more than I do. But speaking back to the age question, I definitely do experience my fair share of criticism. I think, for one, a lot of people tend to associate age with experience. And unfortunately, what we've seen, and actually fortunately, I'd like to say fortunately, in the past year, we've kind of seen that actually isn't the case at all. With recent movements such as the Black Lives Matter movement, with Indigenous Lives Matter within Australia, with COVID-19, we've seen a plethora of different stories of people of all ages, of all identities, of all diversities coming up and sharing their stories. So for me, I often relate it back to the proverb that is so profound within my culture, which is storytelling is the biggest tool to paving the path for change. And I found power in my story, and I found that my story is a lineage of the women that have come before me, of my ancestors that have come before me. And that gives me the strength to work forward. And I know that it is super disappointing to constantly have to work hard within the eyes of the patriarchy or the eyes of the inequality. But allyship and support is a very big aspect to this all. And fortunately for me, especially working alongside YWCA, working alongside organizations that actually center diversity and inclusion within their strategies and actually practice these traits, is a huge tool to feeling safe within these spaces. So as a young woman, I often tend to avoid spaces that I don't feel comfortable in. And I know through experience, for many of us, we can easily tell in the first couple of minutes in having these discussions as well. And that extends to all intersectional identities, not just age.
I totally agree. And I love that proverb of storytelling being the path. And I think it goes back to really everything that we've said here, just engaging and sharing your journey, ideally. And it is hard some days, but not from a place of anger or resentment, but from a place of, this is authentically me. This is how I'm going to show up in the workplace every single day. And that has its own power and that has its own wonderfulness. So whether we're advocating for a better job or a bigger job or a new job or, inclusion in a panel, what is our story and why is it meaningful? And that goes for all people. So to really address Donna's question, Donna is coming from a male-dominated industry. She's used to being different, but her concern revolves around the rumoured ageism in tech as she looks to break into this space. She wants to give herself the best shot in a new career by choosing a niche in tech that is open to older people. So Donna, you've called it out, you're 54. Donna's question, is ageism a problem and what can she do to counter it? What kind of niches are more open to older job seekers? Yolanda, I think you're best fit to answer this.
Yeah, thanks, Donna, for the question. I think it's a real shame that we're needing to ask these questions, but sometimes that's just kind of the reality we face. I wonder if I've got a bit of a tainted view because we specifically do work with organisations who are looking specifically for women like you, Donna. I think that I don't want to obviously put words in your mouth, but what I'm hearing is that you're maybe under not representing, I forget the word, but not knowing maybe everything that you can bring to the table. Like, you represent so many of society, and actually they're really wanting your ideas. So I think it's that what you really want to do is be the questions I suppose you might be asking in, say, the interviews. You do want to be asking them about their inclusion. You do want to be asking them about their culture. You want to ask them, you know, what value do they see in you? But categorically, with the tech organizations that we work with, they're struggling to get women like you. So I actually want you to see yourself as gold, because people will be rushing for you as soon as you have got whatever qualifications you do need for that. But the other thing I would really say is that your network is so critical as well. I've really found that in my career. It's even when I landed over here in Sydney, didn't know many people, and it was really, I tried to build my own network, and it's got me to where I am today. So I really think it is in believing in yourself, finding, even being logical in terms of, this is what I do need, this is what I do want to look for in a tech organization, and these are usually the people that can help me get there. I'd also maybe suggest, we've got a online program called She Pivots on the Dream Collective, and it's actually all about women who are looking to pivot their career, and we'd launched it alongside Google, AWS, Canva, Datacom. These are the people who want you, and basically you go through this program to look at, what are my skills, what are my transferable skills, what can I show in these interviews. And so what you'll actually do when you get to the end of that program is that you'll get a She Pivots badge, and you'll be really put to the top of the list for these interviews. But they are some of the top tech companies that I know are definitely looking for you.
And I can absolutely 100% say that as a career coach at General Assembly, I get a lot of calls of people being like, hello, I would actively like to hire a woman into my tech team because we're lacking some female energy in our organization. So women in tech are highly desired, and I watch my students enter into organizations and networking events and peak bodies that help really support and amplify and help them build that network in a way that's a bit easier. I've got some top of mind, but because we are all over the world with really diverse experiences, do people here on the panel, open question, have tips and tricks in your area of where are great places to go to find your network, to find like-minded women trying to break into tech or any kind of career? Where can we find our people?
Well, as Paula said, she's working also with Dell, and I'm part of the Dell Women's Entrepreneur Network, which is combining, well, first of all, it's for women entrepreneurs, but also tech, right? Because it's Dell. So I find that to be a nice place. It's a great crossover place to meet. And there's a lot of organizations now, smaller and larger, of women scientists, women in STEM coming together. And so I think if you look, you can find quite a lot of networks around. And I know, having joined one, it really helped me to see things differently and to connect with people I would have never connected with before.
And
Yeah.
if I compliment that, I just one point that I wanted to add to Yolanda's, and it's spot on, right? We are looking more and more to have a balance of people, not only for gender, but for different backgrounds and age, because you hiring, you know, and I've put together a team of 30 people in the space of 12 months. You think this is insane, the amount of hiring. And you have to have a real balance, because you take fresh grads, they're great, they're full of energy, they're full of passion, they're full of drive, but there's a lot of conflict, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of ambiguity that, you know, and if you don't have somebody there to help it balance, that team can actually fail. So it is critical that you actually bring people maybe that don't have the top skills, but have the experience and what I call the soft skills. And then together they're very strong, because you combine the practical skills with the soft skills, and you've got an unbreakable team. You're all there for each other. And just one other thing that I would say is tech offers different types of jobs to all, so you don't only have the technical bit scrubber, hard coder, hardware person. Yes, you have that, but you also have the sales, the consultative. And let me give you an example right now. So we've all gone, in the UK, we've been locked in for months. We're just about to unlock. And guess what? A lot of the senior, members of our community can't see their grandchildren, can't interact with their children, are locked in, are vulnerable, can't go out. They have made one of the, they have been one of the biggest contributors to our tech sales over the last 12 months. Why? Because they want to connect, they want to be there. And guess who they trust? They trust people who can talk their language, who can demystify what a machine actually does, because they have no idea if 8 gig or 16 gig or, SSD or hot, it doesn't matter to them. They want to know how they can connect to their kids, or how they can see their grandchildren, and what is it quicker, and what does it do? Can I play a game in it? Can I? So there are different ways of looking at it, and I challenge you to find a passion that you have, so something that you really love, and then look at how you can use, transfer, as Yolanda said, transfer your skill to what you want to go do. And if you want to really become a hardcore coder, go and do a course and do some free work. And so just there's so much out there to do. On the network, obviously, I will definitely talk about Dwen. And Dwen is an incredible women-led and for women entrepreneur program that Dell has put together, with the purpose of connecting all of us across the globe, entrepreneur or not, as Roshanak said. We are here to support and empower each other and transfer our skills. So right now, if you're looking for advice, or if you need help with something, there's just go and join Dwen. It's not a LinkedIn type of community. It is purpose for what you want to go and get out of it. And if you're male and you want to join and you want to help the females, brilliant, do it as well. But that's where I would go. I would avoid the main social networks, and following Roshanak's advice, go very niche as to what you want to do. You want to become a HR professional, go and find your HR network. You want to become a coder, go and join your networks for that. That's where you get the most out of it, because LinkedIn is just very broad and people are self-promoting all the time.
Sarah, any top tips in Perth? Any networks that you found that you deeply love and want to promote?
I guess for me, it's honestly referring back to organizations that I've worked with and looking at these safe spaces within organizations. So for example, with YWCA Australia, we do have our own little national network of women who come together to speak about feminism, to speak about equality. And it is super important to specifically look within organizations that are inclusive. Once again, referring back to not working with organizations or not looking for safety within organizations that have been institutionally discriminatory towards different identities. So again, I tend to trust my gut instincts, and it is super important to especially look after yourself and protect yourself within spaces that are institutionally exclusive.
Yeah, I love that. I think to throw it out there for people listening, no matter where you are, do a quick Google. So put in your city and your local startup incubator. They generally have a Slack channel that is supportive and inclusive and engaging and just interesting. A good place to find like-minded people who are interested in the same sort of stuff you're interested in doing, something along those lines. So startup incubators are a great place to go. The other things are look for female networking events in your city. And if you're in Australia, Tech Leading Ladies is an excellent Slack channel. You can join, ask any kind of question. And speaking of questions, we have an anonymous attendee who's asked a really great question I think a lot of us will be able to relate to. So the question is, I work in a male-dominated small engineering consultancy. My male uni friend just became my manager during COVID, and our friendship has since become very tense. Do we have suggestions on how to bridge the employee friendship dynamic? Who wants to take the lead?
Wow, that's a tricky one. I can tell you. So I was in the reverse situation. I was the one who became the boss. So it is one. It depends how comfortable you are, right, within this position, and if it's a plan moved or not a plan moved, if the person had coaching or not had coaching, and they're probably just trying to adjust. So I was in a role for a year, and then suddenly I became everybody else's, all my peers, the people who I used to gossip with in the canteen, or, you know, the people that you sort of daily, they are your peers. Next day, you're their boss. There's a lot of transition. There's a lot of adaptation that needs to go through, because once you become a manager, there's so much more information that you receive and you're privy to, and you've got to now scale to, you know, sort of pass on to your peers, but who are your direct reports. So your responsibilities change day and night. And if you're not comfortable, if you're not open about it, it can be quite overwhelming. And I'll tell you what I did. So this happened, you know, just before Christmas as well. And my boss got all my team together and said, well, you know, Merry Christmas, Paula's just got promoted, she's managing you all. And I thought, oh my God, this is, you know, oh my God. Okay, what do I do? And then I said, so, okay, this is it. And I set up a meeting and I put everybody in a room and I said, guys, I'm obviously thrilled. This is a great opportunity for all of us, because, you know, if I'm growing, all of you are going to grow with me, but I'm terrified. And I have no idea how to do this unless you help me, unless you guide me, unless I've got you behind me. And I'm counting on you, because you know how it feels to be in the shoes that I was yesterday, to help me do better in the shoes that I am today. So I'm really counting on you. And I had one person who stepped up and said, well, I don't know if I feel comfortable about you managing me. And I said, and that's okay. And let's work through that. I would like to understand what your concerns are. And I would like to understand what's bothering you and what I can do about it. And if there's anything that I can do about it, you know, and if you're not happy in this role, how I can help you find another thing. But unless you voice your concern and you be that person, and it may be your new boss, you know, maybe that they're feeling insecure, maybe that they're trying to adjust. There is something there, because people don't shift from being nice today to horrible tomorrow, but they do shift from being, oh, I'm actually at peace and I'm now overwhelmed. So there's so much worrying me right now and I can't cope. So I react, right? It becomes a reaction. And Roshanak, I'm sure, has all the scientific things, explanations behind it. But that's how it happened to me. And it was pretty hard. And it took about 3 months until I really felt, okay, actually now I know how to lead these guys and I know how to direct them. And I know what it feels to be in their shoes. But I kept communication going all the time. Every new task, I'll be like, oh, how do we do this now that I have to get everybody together? You have to be transparent, because then people be behind you.
I think what you did was brilliant. And on one level, it harkens back to what we were saying earlier about communication and just being people and connecting on that human level, which is everything. But also the other thing that you said, you know, in this particular case, not yours, but the person who was asking the question, there's something also called cognitive embodiment. So they did these experiments, they give you a test, and then half the people who took the test will put on like a doctor's lab coat and the others don't. And then they go back and they take a test. And then the ones who had the doctor's lab coat end up doing better. Because they feel smarter, because, you know, and we embody because we have ideas in our heads, pictures that represent, right? It's like what Zara was saying about storytelling. It's a visualization. It's a It's a non-verbal representation. It's also where our implicit biases come from, which brings us back full circle to equality, equity, gender, race, the whole nine, right? So it may be, and it sounds like the boss in this case has an idea of what a boss is supposed to be, how a boss is supposed to act. I have to be boss-like, which means, and would not take the path that Paula took, but takes maybe a diametrically opposed path, which is the separation, because now I'm at a different level, and that's how bosses are bosses. You know, this is how women are women. This is how men are men. And changing that, for example, there's a movement called I Am a Scientist, which is fantastic because what it does is it shows people of different genders, races, and personal interests. Because when you think of a scientist, you think of like an old white guy, maybe like a absent-minded professor, even with like glasses or something, right? And then, you know, Zara could be a scientist. Why not? You know, but people don't think of that. And so what they do is they bring in all the different people and what their personal interest is. One person's a scientist, and maybe they're also a black belt or a concert pianist or whatever else. And they take this to middle school and high schoolers. And what it does is it starts to change those implicit biases of this is the role of this and this and this, because that's what we're fed, right? Every movie you see probably represents the same persona or character in more or less the same way, right? So you've got, sorry to say this, but you know, and I'm also Middle Eastern, by the way. So you've got the Middle Eastern is a terrorist, right? That's all they can be, you know, or the whatever. The heavy person's the funny person, you know, the funny fat friend or something like that, you know, and these get reinforced and reinforced and reinforced. And through communication, like what Paula did, they start to change through different representation. Like I Am a Scientist, they start to change. And the younger you start to present that, the better the chances are. But communication, communication, and communication.
Totally. Those conversations can be super difficult. I do have a script. I'll share it with you. It's super quick and easy. So if you were to approach this person and say, I've noticed that since you got your promotion, our relationship has shifted, and it makes me feel, what does it make you feel? Does it make you feel like you miss your old friendship? Or does it make you feel like perhaps they have knowledge about you that you'd like access to? Or does it just make you feel sad that the loss or the change in the relationship has taken place? Perhaps you're totally fine with him being your boss, but you want that solid, open communication relationship back. What does it make you feel? If you speak about that, it's not wrong, right? It's your perception of the scenario, and that is never wrong. And it opens that gate to communication. So I've noticed this thing and it makes me feel the way it makes me feel. Can we discuss that? Get his buy-in, ask how he feels. Maybe he hadn't noticed that he was, as Rose says, putting on the doctor's coat, you know, acting like a manager, whatever that means. Or perhaps he was like, I am freaking out. Like, I wasn't expecting this promotion. I am technically competent, but that doesn't mean I'm a natural people leader. And this is very far outside my comfort zone. He might even turn around and ask you for support and help in the same way that Paula did. So open that conversation up for him. He is probably very welcome for the connection and just the opportunity to openly recognize this is outside my comfort zone, or whatever else is going on for me, or I was just trying to act like a boss. I don't know. This is my first time. We don't know how we're going to be in any situation until it happens. So open that dialogue with I've noticed and it makes me feel, and invite the conversation in. And at the end of that, you can circle back on an agreed timeline. So, I'm not in a headspace where I can have this conversation right now. He might respond, can we circle back tomorrow then? You know, give him that option to come back to it at another time. That's how I'd approach it. I find that little structures for conversations make things that seem really hard a lot easier. So I hope that has helped you. And thank you so much for bringing the question. So we have 10 minutes left, and I want to jump into quick fire tips and tricks, places to go, things we love. If you have had a negative interaction, you know, someone has been discriminatory based on your age, gender, how great your makeup was that day, or the fact that your illuminator is making you glow. You know, what feedback did you receive that made you feel a bit shitty? What blogs, podcasts, books are you turning to in the evenings to fill your cup back up and make you feel ready to go out there and kick butt the next day? Yolanda, you've got amazing nods. What is it?
Oh.
Tell us your secret.
Yeah, I'd say too. I think that, and I'm sure on the panel we've all had some sort of discrimination against us, but honestly, I don't know if it's because I'm a very positive person, but after the initial, I suppose, maybe pain of it, I really just see it as an opportunity to have built my resilience and just not take it personally. Sometimes it's actually really on the other person. It's really a reflection of themselves. I think I've actually had more, I suppose, painful moments in my career with women, actually. And it might have been actually because they really had to have a hard shell to try and get to where they're going to go. But don't you find it ironic that men aren't pointed out for having a hard shell? So I don't like to place that on them. So I would say that it's going to come. Let's just accept it. That's okay. It's going to come from different angles. That's okay. Maybe just take a moment to see it as a moment of resilience and something to learn off of what you're not going to pass on. So kind of stop it there. In terms of things that I rely on and where I go for kind of education, I mean, I wish I could add you all onto my girls' WhatsApp chat because they've got the best podcasts ever, but I'm a Brene Brown, a Glennon Doyle, and a Melinda Gates through and through. So I would say that that would be my response.
What other tips do we have? Ro, what do you go to?
Oh gosh, I'm the wrong person to ask that kind of question because I run the entire gamut from like spiritual to hardcore science. I am all over, but I am a huge Brene Brown fan. Actually, the three that you mentioned, Yolanda, those are also three that I subscribe to and believe in. But for me, really, it's a matter of digging in deeper. And the first thing is, if somebody's taking the time to criticize you, either they don't do it well, either they're slightly not so competent at doing it well. Not everybody has that high level of emotional intelligence. And they're taking the time because they care to do something to help you and the group, so on and so forth. Or chances are, but those people will usually mentor you. There's a difference, right? Or if it's just coming across as criticism, the person who takes the time to criticize you is the person who's behind you and below you. Because the person who's doing well and who's ahead of you is not going to criticize you, is not going to take the time, is not even going to notice. You're not even on their radar in that way. And they don't have a need to, and they don't have a desire to, and I mean, it doesn't work. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work. So there is a lot of projection going on. There is a lot of expression of my fear. I'll give you guys a little psych thing. If you ever run into someone that's really annoying you, or you have a coworker that really gets on your nerves, there is something inside that person that is reflective of the part of you that you haven't accepted, haven't integrated, and don't like. So if somebody comes to you and starts criticizing you about whatever, the first thing you can do is actually listen to their language and see what it is that they're saying. And that's reflecting what they hate. Like, oh, you know, you're so greedy. You know, you're always taking whatever, all the good jobs. This person has exactly that problem, and that's why they're saying it to you, for example. And so, I mean, again, like Yolanda said, you can take everything. You can build your castle with the stones that are thrown at you, for one thing, right? It's not a matter of, I'll just keep building up resilience. It's a matter of, this is life, and your perspective of it, which is what you were talking about earlier, is something that you are completely responsible for and can shift. So if you spend a little time throwing some conscious awareness, putting your focus on it, then you use your rational mind, you use your executive function to be able to tease out what you're being emotional about. Because emotion is faster and it blinds you to that. So, but it tells you that there's something you should pay attention to, right? And then when you pay attention to it, then you can tease out what is going on with it. So whether or not you can throw it away, whether or not it's useful to you in some way. And this way, it's not like this beach ball that you're pushing down. You're not just building resilience by pushing something else down, because you're still carrying that energy and you're wasting your resources. But if you spend your time looking at it, so if you get aggravated, that's an emotion, and it's telling you something is important, then you pay attention to that something, you can tease it out and see if there's anything that's really worth getting upset about. And if there isn't, it's dissolved. You don't have to like carry it and deal with it. And if it is, there's something to be gained. There's a gift in there for you.
Absolutely. Paula, do you have tips for things that you like to read to keep you in that mindfulness headspace where you can openly accept what's happening or move forward in a meaningful way? Or alternatively, Ro, you also mentioned mentors. Paula, I'd love to hear where you found mentors, if that's top of mind for you.
Yes, I love Unlocking Us by Brené Brown. I listen to it every week. I think it's one of the best podcasts you can do. I love Tim Ferriss, and I absolutely recommend you guys listening to the Netflix. His name just escapes me. I was trying to remember, but there's an interview with the LinkedIn founder, and I really recommend everybody to listen to that because it's just incredible. It gives so much insight as to really what goes through building, one of the most transformational businesses of the century. It's just incredible. So I love Calm as an app, and I love the rain sounds if I'm stressed out. And my husband always picks on me. He goes, "Oh, you have your rain on." Oh, attention point, because I put the rain sounds and I just, okay, it's going to be good. Very heavy rain. It reminds me of South America, which is where I'm from. Mentoring. You've asked me about mentoring. Mentoring is critical. I would say it's essential to anything that you want to go do. And I don't say one mentor, I said mentors, because different people will help you with different areas, right? And you have to have mentors who will come to you and tell you the things that you don't want to hear. Never forget, feedback is a gift. Right? So if people are giving it to you, take it, take the part that you like and that is useful for you and act on it. Where do I go for mentors? Well, obviously first inside my work network. So within my peers, I find people who can be very honest with me, but it will help me get out of the sort of rat holes that you get into. But also in communities like Duen, and Roshanak and I talk about things, and we've met in a different place, but we sort of exchange and connect, and we help each other in different stages and mentoring, and that's what you do. You build meaningful mentorships with people that you meet along your journey, and these relationships are solid. These relationships are incredible because they're enriching for both sides. Don't be afraid to ask. I said to her, "Hey, I'm struggling, help me out." And she goes, "Okay, let's do this." And that's the magic of exchange, right? And then she was having things that she was working on. So that the exchange makes a connection really powerful and meaningful. So raise your hand, ask the universe, you get it back.
100%. Zara, got 1 minute left. What are your top tips? What do you go to? Who do you go to? Where do you find them? Tell us all your insight.
I just want to refer back to Yolanda's point previously about how it's often been women who have faced criticism from. I think women have ultimately been conditioned by patriarchy to constantly be competing amongst one another, to constantly be taught that there's only one position for one woman to succeed, when in reality, there's more than enough space for every single one of us. I think for me, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is allyship, and looking for people who are like you, who share the same values as you, is so important. And finding those people within your workplace is super important. Let that be a woman, let that be a man. It doesn't really matter, as long as they share the same values as you, that you do have that solid connection and that solid support that you can always run back to. And as I mentioned previously, storytelling is the most powerful tool to changing this world. And I think that discourse is more than enough to tell us if people share the same values as us. So it's all about communication, keeping your ears open, and just being an active listener within your workspace, and finding those cues.
What a beautiful place to end. Thank you so much for all of your insight and for joining us. To each and every one of you, so much to learn here, so many notes of things to go and hit up. And I think to summarize the whole session, if you are looking at breaking into a man's world or feeling more confident if you inhabit a space that is male dominated, connect, tell your stories, listen to their stories, and just be human, because at the end of the day, that's going to make you feel better within yourself, and it's going to help your colleagues, whatever their gender, feel better about themselves too. So it's all about that connection. It is all about your stories. Go out there and believe that you are enough, because you absolutely are. Like yourself, and other people are going to reflect that back at you. Because at least if they don't like you, you want them doing that for the right reasons, right? Be your shiny, amazing, fantastic selves, and know that you have value wherever you are and whoever you're around. So share that value out in your stories and in your connection and your conversations. Again, a huge thank you to our panelists and to our awesome guests who spent their time with us this morning. I can see that you've enjoyed it and appreciated it, and thank you for your questions. I hope you have an awesome start to the day. If you're in Australia, if you're in Europe, have an excellent night. Zara over in Perth, it's time for about 8 coffees in a row, I'm pretty sure, right? Everyone, thank you again. I'm late for a meeting, so it's time for me to sign off.
Thanks so
Thank you.
much.
Bye.
Lovely.
Bye.
Thank you so much. I feel like Hewin's kind of summed it up nicely, and I know that we're just over time, so I'm not going to waste too much time here. But thank you to everyone who's kind of attending this morning or wherever you are in the world, as well as to our incredible panel as well. Your words of wisdom are so inspiring, and hopefully we can work with you guys again. So a huge thank you, and I'll let everyone go and hopefully see everyone soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.